Oh, yeah. Five-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
TA, we are live Tuesday night here in the Tigers Avenue. Zach, there's a pretty awesome reason that we're doing it Tuesday night instead of Monday night. If you are alive and breathing and are conscious as an LSU fan, you know what happened on Monday night. Joey B versus Jaden Daniels, Monday Night Football. It was an absolute banger. It lived up to the hype for LSU fans. Both quarterbacks, both Joe and Jaden, were phenomenal. Man, Jamar Chase was awesome too. Finally, kind of broke loose this season. Been struggling with some double coverages all season long. Finally got with T. Higgins back on the field. Finally got a couple, man-on-man coverage. Wasn't bracketed by a safety, and Jamar does what he does so well and makes people pay for not double teaming him. So it was an awesome show, Zach, for LSU last night on display. Monday Night Football. Jaden Daniels, the rookie, wins it in Cincinnati. And, boy, 38, what was it, 38, 35?
Yeah, something like that.
Fantastic game. And Jaden looked phenomenal, man. He just, as a rookie to go in there into Cincinnati against a team like Cincinnati, who, although they're 0-3, has the weapons to be an awesome team. Man, the game-winning throw that Jaden had to Terry McLaurin was phenomenal. It just does not get any better than that. Beautiful throw. Super proud of him and his ability. And Joe had a great night as well. 350-plus yards, 3 touchdowns as well. Jaden had a rushing touchdown, 2 touchdowns passing. And, the stat of the night, Zach, he was 91% completion percentage, highest for the rookie in NFL history. Just an awesome display of LSU's talent that they continue to put into the NFL, and it's an awesome advertisement and recruitment for LSU to go, hey, we put guys in the league. It's awesome when you got guys like Bryce Underwood, committed, and you go, hey man, this is what you're coming here for.
Just watch Monday Night Football, bro.
And then watch what not Jaden Daniels, but Garrett Nussmeier, he went 350-plus for 3 touchdowns on Saturday against UCLA. So, man, I know it's a cliche, and a lot of LSU fans have been saying it. But, man, if you would have said 10 years ago, LSU fan, you will have 2 Heisman Trophy quarterbacks as the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft, playing against each other on a Monday Night Football, I think we all would have laughed. I think that would have been the appropriate response. But here we are, Zach.
Alas.
And we have another great quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. And I think you have some great guys that are sitting on the sideline. Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley, you're certainly talented. And man, of course, Bryce Underwood, the number one player in the nation, committed quarterback as well. It's been a lot of fun recent years at the quarterback position for the LSU Tigers. And it was fun to watch our quarterback on Saturday, Zach. That's what we're here for, the LSU UCLA recap. We'll obviously give you that. Second segment, accepting reality. There's a few things that we got to accept about this team. And we'll also kind of give you, we are now a quarter of the way through, or no, not a quarter.
No, you're right.
No, I am right. There's 4 games.
You're right.
A third of the way through this season, and sorry, y'all. I've been having a cough. You're going to have to hear me cough tonight a few times. If I really hack my head off, I'll mute the button. Okay. But you're this far into the season, and we're going to say, okay, what do we expect of this team now? What do we expect of them now after seeing 4 games from the LSU Tigers and some things that we need to say, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is the reality of this team. And we'll give you our thoughts on that. And, of course, we'll go around college football as well. Finally, some of these teams are playing decent opponents like, LSU likes to do
The whole season.
every single week, I guess. Every single week. Golly. One of our stinking group of 5 teams this weekend put up 87 points 2 weeks ago. We don't get a break, do we? We don't get a break.
No.
But it's good for us. It's good for your team. It shows you where your team is at. It shows you where you need to get better. And so we'll look around college football and see what some of these other teams are finally doing against some decent opponents. So we'll give you our thoughts on that as well. Zach, LSU wins the game Saturday against UCLA 34-17. Zach, we are now 0-4 against the spread. 0-4. That's not a great stat. Not a great stat. Regardless, though, Zach, you got the win. And I think there's a lot that we can look at this game and we're going to reflect on it. Ultimately, you won the game. Again, there's things you can learn from. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's things that we are seeing and also that Brian Kelly is saying that are kind of affirming a couple things that were really evident in this game against UCLA. But Zach, what I will say is, when you're watching the game and you're thinking, okay, UCLA, they had to go to overtime to beat Hawaii. Indiana came to the Rose Bowl and stomped them on the ground 42-13. And you're as a fan, you're watching this and you're going, we're in Death Valley and it's halftime and it's 17-17. What in the heck is going on, right? Yeah. Rightfully so. I was right there with you. I would totally agree. But now, not being in the moment, rewatching it a couple times, should we have ever been in that situation? No, I'm not making any excuses for the team. But I will say it was better than what I thought at first sight. When I went back and watched the film, knowing we had won the game, right? So I'm a little bit more level-headed, not so frustrated. In reality, this game, it really shouldn't have been as close as it was at half. It really shouldn't have been. And players were in position to make a certain plays that ended up going UCLA's way. And eventually those plays will go LSU's way. But some of these plays bounced UCLA's way early on in the first half, obviously. LSU made adjustments. They didn't make adjustments. Let me not say that. They executed, like Brian Kelly said, and did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And man,
they were still running the same stuff per Brian Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah, running the exact same stuff. You shut them out. You shut them out, Zach. That's what you should have done after an abysmal first half. After an abysmal first half, you went out there, you shut them down, you put a 0 on the board. Your offense went and got you some points and put the game away. Zach, I think the feeling of this game was a culmination of a few things. Number one, you just haven't been overly pleased with the play of LSU from, of course, losing the opener and then the slow, like ho-hum game against Nichols that you played around with was way too close at the half as well. You pulled away. You go to South Carolina. You pull a victory out from the jaws of defeat in South Carolina, right?
After you played horrible.
After you played horrible, you pulled it out. So then to go, okay, this UCLA team's really bad. You should dominate them. And then you did it again. That was frustrating, number one. Number two, it was a day game. Everybody gripes about the day games at Death Valley. Number three, it was stinking hot.
A million degrees.
It was a million degrees. And, I mean, all the fans left, it felt like, at halftime on the eastern side of the field because they were directly in the sun and it was blazing hot. All those pictures, I think, are I mean, I'm glad that some of the media has gone, okay, let's look at the shade. And the shaded area was a lot better filled in. But a combination of all of those things and a couple things going UCLA's way turned this into another frustrating game. First half. Second half, you did what you're supposed to. You won the game. Zach, I want to give a few flowers to players, if you will, that deserve it. Excuse me. But Zach, Braden Swinson, holy cow.
Dude is right now looking at a potential like All-American type season.
There's no doubt his draft stock is rocketing right now. Yeah, you're definitely looking at like a first team All SEC type of season, All American type of season. Dude gets 2 more sacks, another strip sack. Just is so disruptive. And you're gonna need that. You are absolutely going to continue to need that with this defense, right? The secondary is going to need that help disrupting the quarterback, getting the quarterback off his game, not letting him just sit in the pocket and make passes and picking us apart. So Braden Swinson is going to be really, really huge and crucial for us all year long. He's been fantastic. Excuse me. Mason Taylor, Zach. Mason Taylor he is LSU's career leading receiver at the tight end position. He was fantastic again Saturday. He was your leading receiver. Just a safety blanket for Nussmeier, a guy who it feels like every time he gets the ball in his hand, his yards after catch is fantastic. His ability to go catch a few balls that are not easy catches, he makes it and secures it. With what seems to be so easy for him, and he's just affected the game for LSU in so many different ways. Third downs, he's been so available to Nussmeier on third downs. He is a huge, crucial role in this team. So shout out to Mason Taylor, Braden Swinson, and golly, Zach, Garrett Nussmeier has been fantastic.
Yeah.
We as Tiger fans cannot let the frustrations of what we've seen so far overshadow what Garrett Nussmeier has been doing. Zach, at the beginning of the season, or before the beginning of the season, we kind of projected Nussmeier to be around 2,500 to 3,200 yards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And we said 25, right? Ish touchdowns or something like that, 25 to 30.
Yeah.
Homie is on pace for 4,800 yards and 50 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's insane.
Over 4,800 and over 50 touchdowns. Garrett Nussmeier has been fantastic, and he's throwing at a 70+ percentage completion percentage rate. Garrett Nussmeier has been fantastic, has far exceeded my expectations, is poised, is a veteran presence, a leader. He is fantastic. And if you want to win some of these big ball games, it's going to be because of Garrett Nussmeier keeping you within this game.
Yeah.
Garrett Nussmeier deserves all of the credit that he's been given. He's clearly made huge strides in his game. The penalties, or not the penalties, excuse me, the turnovers that once were, that people were going, well, is he going to be turnover prone still? What Brian Kelly has said about him and the turnovers, I mean, has perfectly panned out. Before it was a rental car. It wasn't his car. He drove it recklessly, and he went out there and slung it around. Now it's his car, and he's paying the note on it, and he's paying the insurance for it. He's driving it carefully, and he's babying it, and he's doing a dang good job at it. And I have been so impressed with him. Phenomenal. I mean, the steps he has taken to get where he is, Zach, is phenomenal. It was on full display Saturday. 350 plus, 3 touchdowns. It was fantastic. I'm really thrilled to see how this year pans out for him. Zach, he is starting to be projected as a first-round pick in some places, like already.
Pretty crazy.
He's moved up. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman, but he has moved up Heisman odds and Heisman rankings. He is certainly in the top 10 of Heisman, watch list everywhere. And man, it's really, really early to be talking about this, but if somehow we were able to get him back for another season, dude, if somehow we could get him back for another season, we could have a special year. We really could. Again, really early. We'll see. Maybe he wants to do that because he's waited his turn. And anyways, we need to get to the recap. But I wanted to give these guys their flowers, Zach, before you got into the details of the game. Those guys deserve a lot of credit, and they're really a huge reason as to why you won this game. So, Zach, with that being said, give me your thoughts from Saturday, kind of what you saw, what was bad, what was good, and give me your breakdown from what happened.
Well, it's really good for Brian Kelly that LSU was able to take the opening drive, 75 yards, and score a touchdown. Because if they had not, the heat on him for accepting the ball after winning the toss would have amped up even more already than it has been. So, I mean, and still, there were still people that were extremely frustrated with it. I mean, I was one of those people frustrated with it, but when they go right down the field and score, you can't be as frustrated with it.
No.
And I do kind of understand his thinking, especially with this team. You're going to have to rely on your offense to score a lot of points because the defense is going to be what the defense is. They're going to give up a lot of points. So I do kind of understand where you want to early on try to get a lead, but again, mathematically, like it just doesn't really make sense because they're still, if whoever the team is that gets the ball at the end of the first half, is going to get, most likely going to get the ball at the beginning of the second half. So, that's usually how it goes. I really liked, I know obviously, and we'll talk about this in the second segment, we know what the defense is, but something that they have continued to do and have been consistent with it is wreaking havoc. You had 2 turnovers on the day, one that could have been called a turnover. You had a strip sack, another strip sack, back weeks with Braden Swinson forcing a strip sack. You had an interception by Jordan Gilbert, and then obviously right there near the end of the first half, you had Whit Weeks and Greg Penn and a tackle there together that forced the ball out. So this defense, while we know what the problems are on the back end, the front seven has been phenomenal in my opinion, especially the D line, just getting a ton of pressure and forcing turnovers.
Yep.
They've been so good at that, and that's going to be able to keep you in ball games if you can consistently do that week in and week out with this defensive front.
Yep.
So yes, that was encouraging. Something that was encouraging on the offensive side of the ball, you gave some flowers out. Obviously, Mason was the leading receiver in the game. Aaron Anderson continues to be phenomenal. You saw Kyle Parker, have a huge touchdown reception on what was an absolute dime by Garrett Nussmeier. Really impressive to see Garrett Nussmeier be able to stretch the field there in that scenario and drop it in a bucket. Kyle Parker make the catch and then be able to get into the end zone there at the end. So, good to see some of the young guys. And obviously on defense, you have a lot of young guys playing, but good to see some of the young guys get some flowers.
Yep.
We did not see Chris Hilton, Reagan, even though we were told that this was going to be his debut. I don't know if you've heard or seen anything about that, but I haven't. I haven't seen any. You might have to give some more info there, but we did not see Chris Hilton. Hopefully he can work back against South Alabama, get some action before the Ole Miss game. Obviously, we expect him to be a full go against Ole Miss, but you really want him to have some action. So that was a little bit of a downer, not getting able to see Chris Hilton, but Kyle Parker filled that role perfectly, being able to stretch the field and get that touchdown. I really liked – this was my biggest takeaway from the game, Reagan, offensively. I really liked what I saw out of the backs. I thought all three backs looked really good. You had a drive where Caleb Jackson was carrying the heap of the carries, and I thought he looked really good, finishing runs forward, punishing defenders, making guys miss. Josh Williams, same way, obviously. The 96-yard touchdown drive, that was all Josh Williams. And you saw the line get pushed, right? It seems like we just haven't been seeing that a lot lately for this offensive line and the run game, and they got a lot of push in the second half, and you were able to see these backs be able to do what they can do with that offensive line getting pushed. And then obviously, Caden Durham didn't have the stats that he did rushing-wise this game that he did against USC, South Carolina, but had the huge reception. I think it was a 35-yard reception out of the backfield, made a guy miss, and then just dusted everybody to the pylon. Huge play. He continues to make plays and be really impressive as a young freshman. So a lot of positive things that, you saw from this game, even though it was frustrating there.
Yep.
And, I think defensively, you didn't really see a lot. We were frustrated against Nichols and against South Carolina because of the big plays. You didn't really necessarily see a lot of those this game. You had the coverage bust on the first touchdown drive, where UCLA scored going to the tight end there on their first drive. But, you didn't see you didn't see massive runs. You didn't have any long rushing touchdowns. You're able to limit that. And the only really coverage bust that we saw was in that first drive where Major Burns missed his assignment, and they went over the top to the tight end. So, the big chunk plays, they're, of 20-plus yards, they're not happening as much. They didn't happen as much in this game. Now, you had a lot of plays of 10-plus yards, right? And we know a lot of that is because they're playing back. They don't want to get beat deep. So that's going to happen. They're going to give up yards. They're going to give up stuff underneath. You're going to see 10-plus. You're going to see a lot of 10-plus yard plays. But they're trying to prevent the coverage bust, prevent the long plays, and try to tighten up once the offense gets closer to the end zone. So, that's just the reality of this team. You're playing a lot of young guys in the secondary. It's very evident. It's very clear that that's what Brian Kelly and the staff is doing. They're going to play a lot of young guys and look towards the future with those guys, especially with the news of Harold Perkins, which obviously we can discuss a little bit more, but huge hit for this team. losing Harold Perkins, and I feel for him. In his money year, hasn't been as productive as a lot of people wanted to see him be. But I'll say this, Reagan. While Harold Perkins does affect the game, not just the stat sheet, but because of people having a scheme around him.
Yep.
I think LSU is going to be okay without him. I think LSU is going to be able to be just fine. Now, the only issue is you're going to have, now teams can scheme differently towards your other players that are playing really well, which you mentioned, Reagan, before the show. We were discussing it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, now teams are going to probably hone in on Braden Swinson and preventing him from getting to the quarterback. But again, that's probably going to open up doors for other players like a Whit Weeks or like a Savion Jones or some of the interior guys like Suggs and all those interior guys. So Gio Paez. So I think LSU, while it sucks and you hate it for Harold and you hate it as an LSU fan to lose your guy on the defensive side of the ball, but really your guy right now has been Braden Swinson.
Yep.
So I think LSU will be able to recover from that. But you're getting to a point where you're like, man, if we take another big hit on defense, injury wise, it's already bad. It's already bad, because of the secondary. And now you've lost your best linebacker and you've lost your best defensive tackle. So, you really don't want any more injuries to have to deal with the rest of the season. God forbid someone like Savion Jones or Braden Swinson get injured or Whit Weeks. Like, God forbid that happens. But you still have Greg Penn back there. You still have Whit Weeks. You still have Wes Weeks. And you still got Xavier Atkins, a true freshman. So I think they're going to be okay back there.
Yeah.
I thought offensively, Joe Sloan played called a very good game. We know that the short yardage situation has been an issue. And the very first short yardage situation that you saw LSU in, they do a play action fake. The linebackers crashed, and you dumped it off to Mason Taylor.
Beautiful.
Just past the sticks, which was perfect.
Yep.
The UCLA completely went for the run, and you were able to convert there. And then as you progressed in the game, you saw they were confident enough in the line getting pushed to be able to go to the backs in that short yard situation, and you picked them up.
Yep.
So just a lot. I know, like the majority of fans are going to look at this game against UCLA and be like, oh gosh, that was why are we playing this way? But I think there was like a lot of positive stuff to take, especially from the second half. Your defense held them to under 100 yards in the second half.
Yep.
So, you have to, you can't just pick and choose. Like, this is what this defense is. So let's be excited whenever they give us some positive things to look at for the future. But anyway, I'm coughing too, Reagan. So me and Reagan are both kind of dealing with a little bit of a cough. So y'all forgive us. Xavion Thomas, how about the catch that he made on that booming punt?
Dude.
Running back. Well, he turned around. I mean, how have you seen that in the last 3 years? I mean,
not even remotely.
You see backpedaling. Okay, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to give up on this one. Xavion Thomas turns the hips on a booming punt. Phenomenal punt. Turns the hips.
Punter was really freaking good, by the way.
Yeah, he was. Turns the hips, starts running downfield, over the shoulder catch, and picks up positive yardage to make up from what would have been a really, really successful punt and flipping the field for UCLA, and kind of was able to negate that booming punt on his return. Obviously, he had the end around on the first touchdown.
Yep.
Just seems like Xavion Thomas is going to be that kind of toolsy guy. But overall, I was extremely excited that LSU won. Frustrated in the first half, but dominant in the second half. I know a lot of people also talked about the fans. Look, guys, I don't think they were leaving mainly because of the game. I think it was mainly because of the heat.
Yeah.
You had over 70 people. That was what was reported at the time. It may have been more by the end of the game, but at the time, during the game, we heard of 70 plus people that were being taken to the medical room because of the heat. It was so excruciating hot. So that's why you had the fan turnout there in the second half that you did.
Yeah, it sounded like people were like some of them may have been even passing out, and heard a couple throwing up, but it was just not good. It was not good that heat got to people, and you can't just sit there and bake in it like that, man.
No.
Man, we were there with Utah State game,
and it was hot,
and it was hot, man. It was rough sitting there like that. It was rough. So
that was 11. Wasn't it 11 a.m.?
It was 11 a.m. It was tough. It really was. Zach, here's what I want to say. Kind of last thing, recapping all this. The things in the first half that I wanted to point out, like it really shouldn't have been 17. Here's on the first drive, we talked about it already, but the blown coverage, like Brian Kelly said, we didn't change anything in the second half. It was just about doing your job.
Yeah.
Doing your job, making the right assignment, right? Making the right read. Like, that was a blown coverage. And I'm not trying to pick on Major Burns, but it was on him, man. Like, he went with the running back. The running back was already covered. And he let the tight end slip past him. Yeah. He was wide open, catches it, hops in the end zone. Like, that can't happen. Now, that is on our defense that needs to be corrected. Here's some things that I want to point out, though, that really isn't on them. First, the fumble, right? They're going down the field. Greg Penn strips the ball out. It's called a fumble on the field, Zach. It's called a fumble on the field.
Yeah.
To me, again, this is my opinion. The rule of thumb is it has to be indisputable evidence to overturn the call. Indisputable. In other words, you can't dispute, right, what you're seeing. It's not within question. We got to overturn this call. To me, it was far too close. Far too close for that call to be overturned. The knee did not look like it was entirely down to me as the ball began to shift out of his arm.
Yeah, it was very close.
It was very, very, very close. And even still, it certainly, even if it was, I don't know if it was indisputable.
No.
I don't know if it was indisputable to overturn that call because it was so stinking close.
Yeah.
Maybe it was down, but based on the videos that we saw, it wasn't indisputable to me. Maybe they have a different view. Maybe they have a closer look. I don't know. But from what I saw, it was way too close. To me, call should have stood. Call stands. Right? If you get that back, there's a minute 50 left on the clock. This is obviously hypothetical. You got a minute 50 on the clock. The offense had been looking good. Let's say you go down and score a touchdown. Instead of it being 17-17 at half, it's 24-10. And then in the second half, you pitch a shutout, right? And let's say you score the same amount of points. So you score 17 more, right?
41-10.
It's 41-10. And you cover the spread. That's one thing. Here's the second thing. On the same drive, all of these things are on the same drive, by the way. On the same drive, the play that got them down close to the goal line on the 3-yard line, Ashton Stamp's dude was there. The coverage was good. And maybe you will all remember this play. Ashton was there and got a hand up and tipped the ball. He did his job. It was just an unfortunate bounce. When he tipped the ball, it kind of went back. And the way the receiver fell, it fell right to him, man. There's sometimes you just don't catch a break. The break didn't you didn't get the break that time. He was there. He made the play. He even had help coming over from Deshaun. The ball just so happened to bounce back into the receiver's hands. And there's sometimes you can't do anything about that. That's what got them down there. By the way, that was a third down play. So there was that happen. And then on the actual touchdown, you had P.J. Woodland in the game, true freshman. And again, he was there. The coverage was not bad. It was not blown coverage. He wasn't wide, stinking open, right? He was there, and the guy just made the play.
Yeah.
He just made the play. PJ got his hand in there and tried to make a play. The receiver just made the grab, dude. Like, on that, you just tip your cap. It wasn't bad coverage. He just caught the ball. It was a good play by both players. So that's what I meant by when you looked at it, originally it was really frustrating, but when you went back and you look at it with a clear head and the game's not actually happening, you go, oh, dang. Ashton was there, and he made the play on the ball. It just fell back in this guy's hands.
Yeah.
Like, oh, crap. PJ was there. The guy just made the play. It was a great catch. Or, man, if that call stands, which it probably should have, this game looks totally different, right? It's not 34-17. It's potentially 41-10. And we're going, okay, we did what we were supposed to do.
Yep.
They had a good opening drive, but we shut it down after that, right? It just happens sometimes, man. And LSU just kind of hasn't been getting those breaks. And part of that, Zach, as we've already mentioned, is playing a lot of young guys. And this is a good thing. It's a good thing. You have a lot of young guys that are super talented. They're getting reps early. You're going to have a few times where you just got to go, they're young. So we got to take our lumps. We got to take what they're giving you. But they got to grow and they got to learn from it. There's a lot of growth that can happen from this game. You played a lot of stinking freshmen. Deshaun Spears, P.J. Woodland, Gabe Relaford, Dominic McKinley, right?
Ashton Stamps is a true sophomore.
Ashton Stamps is a true sophomore. Ahmad Bro, that's another true freshman. Weeks is a true sophomore. You are playing a lot of stinking young guys. A lot. They're going to learn. They're going to grow. They're going to make some mistakes. And, Zach, I think this is a good spot here to kind of transition into accepting reality. They're going to make some mistakes, and we've just got to live with that. Zach, we got to live with it. Right? Brian Kelly told you on Monday, this is who we got, right?
Yeah.
It's in the NFL. We're not trading them. They're here. These are the guys you got to play with. These are it. I am okay with letting the young guys go, Zach. I really am. I am okay with that. Let them roll. That's going to be better for us in the long run. It'll benefit us better. I mean, I've heard this example, given multiple times. It's like what Emory Jones and Will Campbell went with, right? Their freshman year. They're stinking talented. Let's put them on the field and let them grow. And they did. And now look at them, right?
First-round draft
They're both going to be first-round draft picks. That's right. It's going to benefit you in the long run to do this. It's going to build this program, this defense back to where it needs to be. And, Zach, this garbage about we've paid too much money for this staff, for this defense to be playing this way, that's garbage. That's garbage. Say what you want, the defense has improved from last year.
Yeah, it is.
The overall
you have to accept the reality that the issue that lies at hand right now with LSU is a personnel issue, not a staff issue.
It's a personnel
not a coaching issue. Now, are the coaches' jobs to coach them up, to have them prepared? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there work to be done there? Yes. Have they been perfect? No. But the issue that LSU has right now defensively, the main issue is a personnel issue.
Really, really noticeable on the back end, too.
Very noticeable.
Very noticeable.
They're young, inexperienced guys, or they're veterans that just don't have the ceiling that some of your younger guys do.
That's true. It's just the truth, man. We got to clean up some tackling too. We got to clean up some tackling. I've been upset with some of the tackling efforts that we've put out there a few times. I've been upset with it. Like, let's play more physical. Like, Major can't go after their tight end, guns blazing, and pop him up like on his shoulder. Like, you can't go high. You are 70 pounds lighter than this guy. Maybe even close to 100 pounds lighter than this guy. You're going to
gotta take out his legs.
Get out and take his legs, dude. Right?
Yep.
That play ended up being a first down. You could have had him for 2 yards. You got to tackle better. We got to be better on tackle. And this is something that you can coach. I mean, with some of these guys, like with Major, it's like, dude, you either got it or you don't. Right? We'll see how it goes. I mean, these young guys, I'm rolling with it. I'm good with it. I'm good with accepting that reality. We got young guys. There's gonna be times when it's gonna look rough, but they're gonna learn from it. I feel like there's a lot from this past Saturday that they can look at on film and say, "This is how you can get better.
Yep.
This is how we can improve." I mean, the actual statement from Brian Kelly, we didn't change a thing. They just executed. That's really a positive thing. That is a positive thing. Like, we didn't change anything schematically. They just did their job, right? Now, after the game, they can go critique it on film and be like, man, this is really what you need to do. This is really how you correct this mistake. And they can begin to build these guys up. I mean, Deshaun, I think, has a super high ceiling. PJ Woodland has a high ceiling. Gabe, Dominic McKinley, high ceiling. Ahmad Bro, high ceiling. Like, all of these guys, I think, are going to contribute a lot to LSU in the coming years. I'm good with rolling them out there this year. I really am. So we don't need to blame and point the finger at the staff. It's really like the first year with Brian Kelly, right? It's like it was a dumpster fire, and we've got a roster put together. We're going to have to live with what we got in a few areas. And it ended up being a good season. It's that way with this staff. Okay, we overhauled the staff. We got them in here. And some of them, we got them later than probably we should have, like Bo Davis and Corey Raymond. We got them a little earlier. The personnel might look a little bit different. But they came in here later. These are the guys you got. Let them build. Let them grow. Let these guys coach them. This staff is a really good staff defensively. They'll grow. They'll get better. They will. So we just have to accept that reality. The back end of this defense is what it is. Sometimes it's going to look like Swiss cheese. Right? Sometimes it's going to look like Swiss cheese. But I think they can get better, Zach. I really do. And if your offense, continues to play the way that they play, and your defense can build, they can keep wreaking havoc, right, with Swinson and Savion. And we were even getting pressure up the middle sometimes. I mean, JVR Suggs had a sack on the day, and he came up the middle. The more havoc that you wreak with these guys, the better it's going to be for the back end of this defense. It's going to make it a little bit easier on them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they can create more havoc, let these guys build, critique them on the film, it can get better. Is it going to be great? No, it's not. It's not going to be great this year. You got to live with it. But it can get better, Zach. Last year, you were overall defense, you were in the hundreds. I think it was 113, if I remember correctly. Right now, defensive efficiency, you're around 76, I think. You're around 76. It's a major improvement. It is an improvement. And you saw that with Blake Baker at Missouri. It wasn't 1 year they went from in the hundreds to 25, top 25. It took them 2 years.
Yeah.
Let these guys build. Let them grow. Let these guys coach. It'll get there. It'll get there. and I think will be good for these young guys playing. It'll be a great benefit to us, Zach.
For sure.
Really will.
Let's go ahead and let's get to a break. Before we do that, Tyler Townsend said, "What's up? What's up, TT? Glad you're here with us."
Thank you, Tyler.
We're going to get a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go around college football, and then we'll wrap up the show with that.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue. Wrap things up here with an around the college football look. Zach, in terms of the SEC this past weekend, you didn't learn much. You didn't learn much.
But there were some good games.
There were. Oh, excuse me. But there were two games that I think were of note. It was the Auburn-Arkansas game and the Tennessee-Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
In the SEC, those were the ones of note. Let's talk about the Arkansas-Auburn game first.
Holy turnovers.
Holy turnovers. Holy Toledo. The turnovers were unbelievable. Zach, there was literally a point in the game where there was 3 straight plays of 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
Interception by Auburn. Well, Auburn throws an interception. Arkansas, next play, Taylor Green, interception. Next play, Auburn, interception. It was one of the craziest games to watch. It had so many different twists in it, and it just was so ugly. I mean, Taylor Green had 2 interceptions between Thorne and Hank Brown. 4 interceptions, 6 interceptions. Zach.
7 turnovers in total.
7 turnovers in total. It was. I don't even want to say it was really a good defensive performance. It was more about a poor offensive performance.
Yeah.
On both sides, by the way. I'll go ahead and throw that out there. On both sides. Neither of these teams, Zach, looked very good.
No, they both looked bad.
Arkansas ultimately obviously pulled it out. It's a good win.
I picked them.
You did. On the Plains, in Auburn, that's a good place to play. A tough place to play. It's tough to win in the SEC. Arkansas ultimately pulls it off, but I mean, Zach, it was an ugly game.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, and I'm glad Arkansas won. I think Arkansas is going to be a good, not great team this year. I think they're kind of in the middle of the pack, near the bottom of the middle of the pack here in the SEC.
I would say okay.
They're an okay team. There is a few other games though, Reagan. We need.
There was one other one.
I would say there's 3. So I'll get.
Tennessee, Oklahoma, and one other.
I got Tennessee, Oklahoma, and 2 others.
Okay.
All right. So Tennessee, Oklahoma, I think it was just about exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, terrible offense. They only put up 15 points.
Horrible.
But they got a good defense, so they held this Tennessee offense to 25 points. But I think that went as expected.
Yep.
The game that was surprising was the Missouri-Vanderbilt game.
Yes.
Because Vanderbilt, who has played good, right? They have played good, but they lost to Georgia State last week. They go to Missouri. You're thinking, okay, here's where Vanderbilt becomes Vanderbilt, right? Here's where they start getting beat down by the SEC schools on the road at Missouri, who's a top 10 team, and they took them to overtime.
Yeah.
And if it had been for a missed field goal there at the end, who knows what happened?
was horrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
I have never in my life seen a worse missed field goal. Never in my life.
Not even close.
Never in my life have I seen one miss.
From the moment it went up, you knew it wasn't good.
Like, brother, what are you doing?
Nerves. Absolute nerves.
Like, it was like,
like college football 25 missed field goal.
oh, yes, bro. That was, I feel bad for the guy, but holy cow. Golly.
Yeah,
That was rough. But
Missouri survives, and it makes you
Dude.
think, okay, maybe Missouri's not as good as we think they are.
I don't think they are. Where the heck has Luther Burden been?
I mean, he had a good game last week. Not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before.
He's had a good game, but dude, he's not even in the top 10 receiving in the SEC.
Yeah.
Theo Weiss has more receiving yards, way more receiving yards than he does.
I mean, he did have 2 touchdowns against Missouri. So, you know.
I get it, but man, his targets and his yards are down. Hopefully, it'll pick up. But I mean, he's literally not even in the top 10 in the SEC for receiving yards. And Theo Weiss is, I believe, 5th.
Yeah, Theo Weiss has had a really good start to the season. But I mean, either way, both of those guys are really impressive. The other game I was going to mention was Florida Mississippi State. I was really interested to see, you know, how that game went, considering they're both doo-doo. And I picked Florida, but man, State played them close. I know Florida kind of, you know, it's like just when you thought Florida was going to like pull away, like State would kind of inch back closer, you know.
Yeah.
But that game also kind of went as expected. But I think as me and you talked about and discussed after we discussed this after the game, you know, it doesn't really mean much. You know, him beating State really doesn't mean much. It's a really, really bad State team. I don't know if there's going to be another game that State can win out, you know, in conference this year. Looks like they're going to be it's probably between them and Vanderbilt as the worst team in the conference. Yeah. And you're looking at Vanderbilt going, holy cow, they just took a top 10 team to overtime.
That's true.
So it really looks like State, and who knows, Vanderbilt might be better. Vanderbilt might be better than both those teams. Vanderbilt might be better than Florida and Mississippi State. So I don't know. It's crazy to say that this year in the SEC that Vanderbilt might be better than 2 to 3 teams in the SEC. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. Shout out to Vandy.
I mean, you could probably argue that Vanderbilt's better than Auburn.
Maybe so. I think they give them a run for their money.
I mean, right now, I mean, you don't know. How well would Vanderbilt stack up against Arkansas? I mean,
Vandy's got their quarterback situation figured out.
Yeah, they got their quarterback situation figured out, which I'm interested in now. Like, let's see who else they play. Okay, so it sucks this week. You know, they're on bye week. But then they play Bama. They play Bama in 2 weeks.
Brutal.
Go to Kentucky. That ought to be it. Huh?
Play Bama and us.
They host Bama.
Golly.
At 2 Saturdays from now. Then they go to Kentucky. They host Ball State. Probably a game that they'll be able to win. They host Texas.
Oh.
They host They host Texas and Bama. Go to LSU. They go to Auburn, host South Carolina, host LSU, host Tennessee.
Golly.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
But like, can they win the Kentucky game? Yeah, I think so. Could they win the Auburn game? Yeah, I think so. Could they win the Ball State game? Yes, I think so. That's 3. Can you find one more?
Bowl eligible.
To get bowl eligible. I mean, how crazy would that be?
That would be unreal.
They really, I mean, the Georgia State loss is what's killing them right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you should have beat Georgia State. You should have won that game. You should have beat Georgia State. You'd be 3-1 right now with Ball State still on the schedule, Auburn still on the schedule, Kentucky still on the schedule, South Carolina still on the schedule. So, and the good news is they host South Carolina. But the problem is they go to Kentucky, they go to Auburn. So some of the teams that they'll probably be able to compete better with, they go on the
On
road.
the road, yeah. Tough.
Yeah.
Tough schedule.
But how about Vandy? How about Vandy?
Shout out to Vandy.
Shout out Vandy.
Zach, outside of the SEC, there are two games of note. First and foremost, it's not as important, but I just want to point it out. James Madison hangs 70.
Yeah, that was crazy. I saw that.
70 on North Carolina.
Yeah.
And it looked like North Carolina might have been kind of eking their way back in the game late, like in the second half. I guess they just don't have any.
I guess nope. Neither team has defense. 70-50 the final. That's insane.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
USC, Michigan.
That's the other one I wanted to point out to you.
Apparently, Michigan can't throw the ball and can still beat USC. That loss looks bad for LSU.
That's what I was about to say. It's not. It doesn't look good for LSU.
No,
it was at the Big House. It was at the Big House.
It was at the Big House.
And I'll tell you this right now: if it's in Death Valley, I think we beat USC. I will say that.
Yeah,
but it's like you said, it doesn't look good for LSU because you think about who Michigan's played. Michigan hosted Texas, and Texas, handled Michigan.
Yeah,
you got handled. They handled Michigan, and Michigan then beats USC. Excuse me. That's part of the. That's kind of like part of accepting reality is like you're not in the elite tier.
no,
you're just not.
Not this year. You're good, not great.
You're a good team. LSU can be a good team, and I think Zach, you might can pull off an upset this year.
Yeah,
I think you pull off an upset. I think you can finish this season 9-3.
The question is going to be, how do you look versus Florida, versus Arkansas, versus A&M, versus Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Like, those are going to be the games. And then can you get an upset in there somewhere?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we didn't really do this, but do you want to adjust your 10-2 record? It still feels like it's obtainable. But like now you're looking at the Bama game going, that's probably a game that we lose now.
Well, I want to see this weekend. I'll tell you that much. I want to see what Georgia does with them.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think we might have a better chance against Bama than Ole Miss. So maybe you lose the Ole Miss game, you win the Bama game. I don't know. I'll tell you this much, though, Zach. I think there is some flaws for Ole Miss. There is some flaws for Ole Miss. I think
they didn't look unbeatable this weekend. I'll say that.
Right. Their offense is good. Their offense is good, but all they have done is played inferior opponents.
Crap.
They played crap opponents.
Bottom of the barrel crap.
So it's good. It is good. The offense is good, and there's going to be times when in the Ole Miss game that you're probably going to get cooked a couple times. Let's be real about that. But I don't think their secondary, Ole Miss's problem has always been their secondary. I don't think their secondary is good enough to match up against elite receivers. And I think it is a hole in their defense. Their defensive line is good. It's kind of like LSU. Their defensive line is good. Their secondary is not so good. They added, look, I said this, Zach. I said this on the show. They added a ton of secondary from the portal. But what people didn't realize is they lost a bunch of those portal additions. They lost them. They lost the Tennessee transfer. He retransferred in the spring. I can't remember his name. But the safety that came from Tennessee to Ole Miss retransferred. I think he retransferred to Louisville. Demo Richardson, who transferred from Mississippi State, ultimately declared for the draft and got drafted. Right? So some of these guys that they were expecting to come in and be dudes in the portal in the secondary did not end up staying, and that quietly was missed. Because the announcement of portal additions are way louder than portal exits. And they had several of their secondary additions leave. that they didn't retain. And everybody's going, oh, boy, they added all these D linemen and they added secondary. Some of that secondary left. And I don't think it's as good. I really don't. I think I think teams like LSU could exploit their secondary. So
yeah, we'll see.
and
So
we'll also have to see the D line against a good offensive line.
yeah, correct. Which obviously LSU would be a good offensive line. So I mean, it's definitely possible there that the matchup against Ole Miss is more favorable than you think. But you got South Alabama this upcoming weekend. We'll preview it on Thursday. You're gonna, you expect to win there. You expect LSU to win there.
Offense is good though.
I'm sure South Alabama's going to put up points. They'll probably put up some points. Then you go to Ole Miss. I think LSU's going to lose that game. I think it might be closer than people think.
It's in Death Valley. You don't go to Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm saying they play Ole Miss. They play Ole Miss in Death Valley. I think that game's going to be closer than people think. I do think they lose. I think you beat Arkansas. I think you beat A&M. If there's a game there, I mean, I'm probably more confident in us beating A&M than Arkansas, to be honest. You go on the road to Arkansas. I don't know. Both of those are going to be tough. They're back-to-back road games. Then you host Alabama. The Ole Miss to Bama stretch is really tough.
Yeah.
Really tough.
It's the toughest.
So then you got to go to Florida. I mean, those 5 games are just brutal. They're just brutal. The good news is you got a bye week before Bama. So and you get a bye week before Ole Miss. So the 2 toughest games on your schedule, you're going to get a bye week. You host Oklahoma. You host Vanderbilt. The 3 games that you really got to worry, I think you really got to worry about is at Arkansas, at A&M, and at Florida. But this team can be 9-3. They can be 10-2. You got to worst case scenario, you lose to Ole Miss, you lose to Bama, and you lose. One of those games against Arkansas, A&M, Florida. I think you're going to be Florida. I really do think you're going to be Florida. The back-to-back Arkansas, A&M, sandwiched by Ole Miss and Alabama. There's definitely potential for LSU to trip up there somewhere.
Yep.
So we'll have to wait and see. But season's still young. His team's still growing. They're young. Hopefully they can get some things going and get some things figured out here in the next 2 weeks, really 3 weeks in total, from now to South Alabama to bye week to Ole Miss. 3 weeks to prepare and get this team ready for what's going to be the biggest matchup of the season.
No doubt about it. Appreciate all you guys coming in and interacting, Zach. Get Ryan's comments real quick.
He said Michigan became a military school.
Looked like it. A lot of inside run.
And he said, poor Walker Howard. Walker Howard.
Bro, Walker Howard. You could be the next guy up. You gosh, Walker Howard's so dumb. You realize he's third string at Ole Miss right now. Do you realize that? Like, I don't know if anybody.
Maybe. Maybe Walker Howard is just not as good as we thought he was.
Maybe not, because Austin Simmons is over him right now at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Simmons is over him right now.
Career third stringer.
Like, for real. I mean, let's say Garrett Nussmeier continues to ball out, becomes a first-round draft pick. Like, it could be Walker Howard's turn, but he transferred. That was bogus to me. That was absolutely. He's
gonna probably end up having to transfer again and go somewhere where he knows without a shadow of a doubt that he can start. But anyways, that's besides the point. We're not worried about.
Shout out Louisiana Lafayette.
We're not worried about Walker Howard. We're worried about LSU.
Yep. Appreciate you guys, Tyler, Ryan, for coming in here. Been a great show, recapping everything from this past weekend. LSU gets the dub. We'll recap, not recap. We'll preview South Alabama, LSU this coming Thursday, and we'll see you then on the Tigers Avenue show. If I start here, things out. Peace.
Who that five star? Who that five star? And the LSU Tigers, LSU Tigers.